In this lesson, we're going to be looking at the internal flash option, specifically the exposure compensation for the flash, which is something that if you are using the internal flash or any flash, it's really important to use your settings wisely so that you're not getting that super blown out image of a flash just being blasted into your subject's face. That's why we recommend using an external flash, which we'll cover in the accessories section of the course. But since this is more of an internal option of the camera, and if you don't have that accessory, I wanted to show it to you in this section. So we've got my friend Bill here. He's going to be helping us out as our model today. So typically, if I just am on complete auto mode, we're gonna turn on auto. I'm gonna take my camera. We're gonna see, it might not even need a flash right now. I'm just gonna take a self-portrait of our friend Bill. So no flash is needed, but maybe just for stylistic purposes, I want my flash to be on. So actually we gotta turn on to P or program mode where I have control over if flash is used or not. And I'm gonna pop that open and now take a flash photo. Now this photo, as you can see on the screen, is super, super bright. So what we're going to do is we're gonna go into our menu and adjust our flash settings. So if you go into our main menu under the second column on the second page on the T7i, it might be somewhere different on yours. If you go to flash control and then we go to built-in flash settings and then exposure compensation, I'm gonna just turn this down. Let's try -1 and then click OK to set. Now I'm gonna take a photo. And we can see that the flash between these photos is a lot less harsh. It still definitely adds some to this photo, and you'll see this on the screen, but the second one, it gets rid of the shadow that we got in the first image without the flash. But compared to the first flash photo, it's not completely blinding this guy. Another thing we can do is try to filter our flash, our internal flash. So there's a couple options for this. You can get sort of an attachment, like it's a little plastic dome or globe or even a fabric mesh that goes in front of it. But if you don't have that, simply use a piece of white paper. So I've got my white paper here. I'm just going to put it in front of my flash. I'm gonna take my picture again. Now this lighting is a lot softer and I would say more beautiful than the harsh flash of the direct flash. Now let me go in here and boost our flash exposure compensation. So we'll go into our built-in flash settings, put that at 0 again. And if you're using a filter, you might have to actually boost the flash itself. And really what this is doing, it's not boosting the flash power on the camera because the internal flash, it just has one sort of setting. It's just affecting the exposure settings. If you're on an auto mode, for example, it might adjust the shutter speed, ISO, or aperture that it's getting to control the actual exposure with this flash. So I can see that it's a little bit brighter, just very subtly. The flash is a little bit more powerful. Even though we're diffusing, it is brighter than the previous shot, but at the same time, it's not as harsh as that first shot with the flash that you can see here, just compared to the last one, a lot softer. So of course, getting out there as a professional photographer, holding your paper up like that is probably not the best idea to look professional. You probably want to invest in a flash diffuser or an external flash like we'll be covering in the accessories section of this course, but I did want to just show you an example of what you can do with an internal flash to make it look better in a pinch. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I'm covering another little advanced feature of your DSLR called the histogram. I mentioned this earlier in the class because there was a setting in the menu about it, but it's basically a way to visually represent the exposure of your image. The easiest way to do this is to look at it. So either take out your camera or just watch the video. And if you go to live preview mode, and then press the info button to change the display. Or if your camera doesn't have an info button, press the display button. And there's potentially a chance that your camera doesn't have a histogram, but if it does, you'll just scroll through the info or display settings to see it. So once I get to this image with the little graph right here, you can see a rectangle with, looks like some peaks, some white peaks. Watch what happens when I increase or decrease the shutter speed, which is actually going to adjust the brightness or the darkness of this image. So let me also set my ISO to 100 so it's fixed, so the camera isn't trying to auto expose. So just with the shutter speed, that's the only setting that's changing now. See how those peaks within the histogram are moving to the left or right? When it goes to the left side of the rectangle, it's when the image is actually becoming darker. And vice versa, it goes to the right side of the histogram when it gets brighter. That's because the histogram is a scale that goes from darks to brights, or complete black to complete pure white. So if anything is hitting that left side, it means it's completely black. There's zero exposure whatsoever. There's zero information being captured if I took that picture. Let me go ahead and do one of those like that, where we have some actually touching the left side. All right, now let's go all the way to the other side, where some of the parts of the image are actually touching the right-hand side. So those peaks are actually the parts of the image. So let's scroll down where the peaks are somewhat in the middle. That's kind of what you want. You want a picture that has exposures across the board. And that's what the histogram represents. If you have a peak or multiple peaks from black all the way to pure white. So sometimes you're not going to have complete black to complete pure white, but in general, you should have something throughout the middle. So if I take that picture, you see it's in the middle and it's well exposed. It's also well exposed if I look at my exposure meter at the bottom of the live preview as well. We can also review our photos and see what it looks like. So if we press the review button, and then again, if you press the info button or the display button and cycle through the views, you can get to this one that shows the histogram. This one's a little bit easier. So let's go with just one photo at a time. This is the last one, well exposed. This one's too bright. The other thing this does is cool on this camera. It actually, see how this is flashing white? That's telling us that that part of the image is completely pure white. There's no information whatsoever. It's overexposed, and if we tried to edit it and bring it back and expose it properly in editing, it's not going to work. Now this one, here's the dark one with the histogram showing a lot of the image to the left side of the histogram, and that makes sense because the image is super, super dark. All right, so like anything, the histogram is meant to be a tool that helps you. There's no rules that are meant to be broken with photography. Just like with the exposure meter, I told you that it's okay if it's a little bit dark or a little bit bright. If you have a histogram that's all black, all on the left-hand side, but a little bit on the right-hand side, maybe you're taking a photo of everything being silhouetted, looking through a dark hallway, and then at the very end of the hallway is a little bit of light. Or maybe you're outside, you're on a beach, and everything is bright and sunny except for a shadow or a little lifeguard tower or something like that. That would be a histogram with everything a little bit that looks a little too bright and then a little bit in the middle or in the darks. So you use it as a tool, but not necessarily a rule. All right, if you have any questions about histograms, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.